Hi everyone. In this video, let's learn about TensorBoard and how to launch it. And again, I'm making this video because initially when I was learning about TensorBoard, first of all, I struggled about how to launch TensorBoard, and then I struggled about like why do my results or why do my accuracy and loss curves look so weird? And let me address a couple of these so you don't make the same mistakes. But if you're wondering what TensorBoard is, I just put like two key screenshots right here. On the right hand side, you can see that, okay, you can immediately visualize epoch accuracy and epoch loss. Of course, you can do this using pyplot as part of your code, but here by default, just by adding a single line in the code, you get a wealth of information. And the other useful thing about TensorBoard is you can visualize your model and you can dig deeper into this model. And let's try to understand these two today. But first, let's see how we can launch it. Okay, so jumping into the code here again, don't worry about the code. Again, I covered this in the last 2-3 tutorials, so please watch the last 5 videos. You will see this code at least in a couple of those videos. So this is the Wisconsin breast cancer dataset. And so let's go ahead and run all of these lines up to here. This is again nothing new, so this has nothing to do with TensorBoard, right? I mean, we have our data frame, and in the data frame we have a whole bunch of data, including the labels. Again, this is malignant or benign, so again, watch my previous videos about it. Because it's malignant or benign, I am encoding it so they become 1 and 0, which is easy for our deep learning to handle. And now I'm doing pretty much the same that we do for any data set, which is define your X and Y. For X, I'm dropping the label, the columns label and ID. For Y, we already encoded the label, so we are all set for Y. And then I'm scaling my X values because all the columns, they range in the values from 0.01s to like 100 point something. So there is 4 or 5 orders of magnitude difference, so scaling is very important. Okay, so now I'm defining a very simple model. Again, this is the model that we decided was the best in the video where we looked at the loss functions and accuracy. I believe this is 3 or 4 videos before this one, so please again go ahead and look at that if you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, very simple model where we have a dense layer with 16 nodes or neurons, and then we are dropping out 20%. And then finally an output dense layer with 1 output. Yeah, either it is malignant or benign, right? So this is a binary example, and the activation we are going to use is sigmoid, and the loss function is binary cross entropy, and optimizer is Adam, and we are tracking the accuracy as metrics. So let's go ahead and run these lines and print the summary where we should see pretty much the same information we just went through. Okay, so typically you would just do model.fit xtrain ytrain, and you put your verbose equals to 1, meaning you want to see what's going on the screen, and number of epochs, your batch size, and your validation data. In addition to that, I added a line called callbacks, and within the callbacks you can provide a list of callbacks. One of the callbacks that we are going to use is called TensorBoard. In addition, you can also do early saving, for example. Yeah, so you can monitor the loss, and you can say, hey, the loss is not improving anymore, so go ahead and save the model so we don't have to train much longer. So these are other callbacks you can add, but again, let's focus on one thing at a time. Let's add a callback called TensorBoard. Now, obviously, you have to define the callback at some point. So here I'm defining the TensorBoard callback as TensorBoard, and the parameters I'm supplying to this is log directory. There are a lot more you can actually supply. Look at the documentation. Again, this TensorBoard is part of TensorFlow callbacks, and I'm importing TensorBoard right here. Okay, now one important thing I'd like to make sure is, of course, Keras is using TensorFlow as its backend, but if you use all the way up here, instead of tensorflow.keras.models, if you just do keras.models and import sequential, keras.layers and do dense and other stuff, and you build your model, that works fine. But down here, if you do like tensorflow.keras.callbacks, if you mix Keras and TensorFlow, you'll get some weird error, and it may take a while for you to figure out why you're getting that error. Okay, so make sure either you use all keras dot something or TensorFlow dot keras dot something. Okay, got to be consistent there, because you cannot mix these graphs between these two, TensorFlow and keras. Okay, so within TensorFlow.keras.callbacks, we are importing TensorBoard, and I just gave a file name called my saved model. We'll get back to this in a minute, because this is very important, because I'm supplying my within the format, I'm supplying what's file name I want to save my all the information for this training. Okay, so let's just give my saved model as the file name. That's it. It's very simple. Import TensorBoard, and this is the line that you define for your callback, and again give a file name here, and then add this callbacks equals to TensorBoard, nothing else. This is it. In addition to that, I'm just plotting my regular loss and validation. None of this is necessary if you're going to look at your results in TensorBoard. Okay, let's go ahead and run this. 50 epochs, so it should be pretty fast. This is not a big data, it's a very small data set. So now we should see the result any moment. Okay, so it's throwing out a whole bunch of warnings and everything. Let's ignore that, but let me go to plots, and you can see this is what we do typically, right? I mean, you add these plots down here to plot your loss and validation loss, to accuracy and validation accuracy. If this is all you need, you don't need TensorBoard. In fact, bulk of the time I don't even open TensorBoard. I don't even include the TensorBoard callback. Maybe it's a good idea to include it, because later on, if you want to go ahead and study things in detail, you have all of that stored right there. Okay, so here is my training loss, validation loss, and training and validation accuracy. So now, how do we open TensorBoard? So for that, open your command prompt. If you set your environment correctly, then it works from command prompt, but a quick suggestion, just open Anaconda prompt, right? I mean, if you actually go to your Anaconda right there, you can open your Anaconda prompt. So I just opened my Anaconda prompt here and navigate to the folder where you have your files. So here I have my file right here, and then my data right there, right? And then I created a folder called logs. So all the stuff, well, it says this folder is empty because none of that is logged in here. So apparently I wasn't running the right file. So let's do this one more time. Sorry about that. Now that you understand everything, let's go ahead and do this. And down here, let's make sure logs is what I selected, and let's just save this as saved model. I just copied the folder because of some reasons that I don't want to get into, but anyway, but everything else is the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this one more time. Sorry, you have to share the screen one more time. You see the pretty similar output, but now when I go to my folder right here, you should see that my logs actually has my saved model, and in here you have training, you have validation information, so all the information is in there. You don't have to open these logs. Actually, we'll access them via our TensorBoard. Now, getting back to where we were. So first of all, navigate to that folder. So it's in my Python files and TensorBoard tutorial. And here you need to copy. Again, I'll include this as part of, I'll include this file. You can get it from my GitHub page. Again, link in the description down below. But as soon as it's done, just go ahead and type Python -m TensorBoard this. Let's do this, and then I'll show why it didn't work out. Okay, so let's go ahead and type this. And it says error while finding module specification for Tensor module not found, no module. The reason why this is happening is you see this, let me clear the screen. I have many environments, I think 3 or 4 environments for my Anaconda. Again, if you watched my previous videos, I said keep your environments different. I have one environment where I use GPU. The other one I just use for experimentation. The other one I use for my work. So I want these environments to be different. So when I install, uninstall, things don't interfere. So right now, this is my base environment. So I need to switch because this one is in an environment called Python 3.7. So I need to switch my environments. If you don't have environments, then this should have worked. If you do, then you have to switch. Now, first of all, find out what environments do I have, right? So for that, it's conda, env, and list. So now it should list me all the environments I have. And I know that I'm in Python 3.7 environment. And my GPU environment is Python 3.5, I believe. So it's a different one. Yeah, Python 35 GPU 3.5. So let's switch the environment. So I need to activate, what is it called? Python 3.7. Then you see how it says Python 3.7 here. Now I'm in the right location. So if I run exactly the same command again, hopefully it should work. Okay, again, I'm showing you the type of mistakes I made in the past or challenges I encountered so you don't encounter the same set challenges. Now it says that, okay, TensorBoard on localhost. Usually this is the default location, localhost 6006, but you can define what port you want that to be on, but default is fine. So it gives you this. All I'm doing is copying that, and let's go ahead and paste it and open this. So this opens TensorBoard. Now it looks a bit ugly. This is the thing. I had a different TensorBoard. I didn't kill it properly the last time, so the server is still up and running. So you see how ugly this actually looks like. Okay, let's leave this on for now. That's okay. Now down here you can see how I have my saved model. The problem here is, again, it's a good thing I didn't close this. The problem here is, when I run this, when I gave it my saved model, I already did this once. So it's appending. When you use the same file name, it doesn't overwrite it, it appends it. So when you look at the TensorBoard, it looks so weird. You have like so many things going on. So now let's do something. Let's get back and let's give this a model, my saved model, I don't know, new. Let's still write it to logs folder. Okay, let's run this one more time, and I can open this so you can see, hopefully my saved model new will show up right here as soon as okay, so it doesn't want to show up. So let's do one thing. Let's actually change the port number, okay, and start something from scratch. So for that, let's actually go ahead and type exactly the same thing. This time, let's actually give a port number, okay? So let's just give a port number of 6007. So all I'm doing is, but the default port was 6006 right there, right? So the default port was localhost 6006. I'm given a different port number. You can do 8008, whatever. Change the port number and then run it. And now let's actually go ahead and let's look at not 6006, but 7. So let's see. Oh, sorry. It does help if we run it, right? So let's go ahead and run that line. Okay, so it's running. The port is up and running. So let's go ahead and reload it. Now we should see something. This looks much more meaningful, as you can see. Okay, so all it's doing is looking at what I have in the logs folder. I have my saved model new. I have two things there. That's why it's showing me two things right here. My saved model new. I hope this makes sense to you guys. Yeah. So if you do not change this file name here, then every time you run it, it's just updating, or not updating, it's appending the new stuff. So the graphs look so weird. I mean, the plots look very weird. So if I just do new 2, and if I run this one more time, and if I get back here, so the new 2 should show up here as soon as the logs, are collected. Okay, so anyway, so that's the idea. And now let's look at these graphs. This is the new 2 again. I took a second because here I think it updates. I can actually on demand, I can update right here, or you can basically say reload data every 30 seconds. So it took 30 seconds to reload it. Okay, that's why it took a while for it to show up, even though our information was done, or run was done 30 seconds ago. Okay, so now I have way too many things. You can look at all of that stuff here. Now you can actually uncheck everything and only look at the new right there. And if I go back and if I look at the latest, this and this should be exactly same as what you see here. Okay, these two, except in this case there is some smoothing applied because there is some smoothing right there. If you want, you can take the smoothing off. Okay, so these are the and you can get data from every little point. This is very interactive, so this is why I absolutely love TensorBoard. Okay, now again, you can compare different models, so you can actually change certain parameters here. I don't know, whatever you want to change it, and then you can actually compare these different models. Okay, how does the validation look like between this and the other model? How does the training look like between these? So you can do all kinds of stuff. Okay, expand. Again, I'll let you explore all of these. You can do a lot of visualization changes here. Now, if I go to graphs, because I've run it many times, this may look a bit weird. Again, we did this many times, but if you look at this, the basic graph here, graph actually shows you the structure of your model in a visual way. Remember, in the code, we actually looked at, where was that? Model.summary. When you look at the model.summary, this part, this is the same part in a visual way right here. Okay, so what do we have first? We have a dense layer, and then dropout, dense, and activation. Let's go back. We have a dense, dropout, dense, activation, sigmoid. This is it. So now let's go and dig a bit deeper. If you double click, oh, it took a second there, but you see it opens up and shows us what's inside this dense layer. And what's inside is, first it does matrix multiplication. Okay, again, please watch my last tutorial in terms of what happens at each neuron. There is matrix multiplication when it comes to the weights and all that, yeah? And then you add the bias. And after that, it goes through the activation function. Apparently, in this case, we used ReLU activation function. So right there, okay, rectified linear unit. So that's what it's showing here. And then it says identity means nothing. It's just multiplying it by 1, right? And then it comes out. What happens once it's coming out? So what's the next one after this dense layer? Dropout, and then dense layer again. So if you go back here, yeah, the next step here is dropout. Okay, and when you click on this, again, it gives you information about dropout, what's happening when it comes to dropout, more information on the top right hand side. Again, I'll let you evaluate that. And let's go to the final dense layer. Sorry, click on the plus to expand it. And again, matrix multiplication, bias, but in this case, we do not have any activation. Again, remember, for the output layer, you don't add any activation for that dense because it's actually multiplied by identity. Okay, there is no activation right there. Well, the activation is identity function, and then comes out, and then what activation do we have? I think this is sigmoid, if I'm not wrong. So there you have the sigmoid and then the identity. So this gives you a nice visual way of what's happening at every step. Okay, so this is TensorBoard, and I think I talked about the couple of issues. In fact, we ran into these couple of issues. One of the issues that you will probably find is why is the server not closing? Okay, so you can force close this by usually when you do Control-C, it should close it and you're all set. Okay, so I hope you found this tutorial to be useful, and again, please dig into TensorBoard. There is so much I showed you, but there is a lot more that you can actually do with TensorBoard. So please go ahead and explore every little part of TensorBoard and see if it's useful for you. If not, if you just are okay with your loss curves, then you just need to add your piplots for these validation, loss, and accuracies. Okay, thank you very much. And again, in the next tutorial, let's do something different, something fun, and please subscribe to my channel. Otherwise, you'll miss out on this cool stuff. Thank you.